guess I shouldn't have worn your earrings if I'm going to try and take my mask off every once in a while. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out this evening. We're excited because this is our first live interest meeting since March, and we've been trying to do them by Zoom, and it's just not the same. It's kind of hard. So we're very excited you guys were willing to come out in person tonight. Well, my name is Julia Descarpentry, and I'm the county coordinator for the call here in Saline and Perry counties, and also we're helping out Grant County right now as well. So just out of curiosity, who's from Saline County? Okay, pretty much everybody. No Perry, no Grant? Okay. Technically, okay, I was going to say you don't know where you live, but you're okay. Yes, we hear a lot about Grant County. So anyway, well, thank you for coming. Also, out of curiosity, just to kind of get an idea of who's here tonight, and also I want you to understand, tonight is a conversation. It's not just going to be me lecturing. So what I would like to know are, what are your questions? What are your concerns? What are you excited about? And we want to make sure that you understand everything possible to make a decision whether to foster, adopt, or volunteer. So who's interested in volunteering? Okay, very good. Fostering? Adopting? My spouse made me come. Okay, thank you for being honest. It's usually the case, and that's all right. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable with it. So, well, my name again is Julia, and my husband and I actually do attend church here, and we chose to have the meeting here tonight because it's just easier for me. So we attend Fellowship Bible Church, and we moved down here 13 years ago and began attending this church. And we were one of two families who were adoptive families. We had adopted a child from China when he was 16 months old, and he's now going to be 17 next week. And it was really neat to watch the landscape of our church change as other families began interacting with our family. We're not any great warriors, or we weren't very outspoken about adoption at that time, but it was obvious both this other family and I, our family had adopted because our kids were of different races. And so people began asking us questions and wanting to know more. And it was just really cool to watch how other families then thought, okay, if someone like the Descarpentrys can handle this, or they'll accept the Descarpentrys, they'll accept anybody. And so more families began adopting, and then we decided to go ahead and start fostering, and we watched other families around us start fostering. All that to say, when you decide to become a foster or adoptive family, you become an ambassador for children in foster care. And so it's a great way to share your mission with others, is to share your life with them. So we're going to talk about how you can do that, not only with children in foster care, but how do you share your life and invite others to join you in on this journey as foster family support, or to support you through adoption. And so it takes a community to help raise these kids. And if anyone's a parent already, you know it takes a village anyway, just in parenting in general, but especially kids who come from hard places. So we're excited to go through that process with you tonight. So we are going to watch a short video here, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts. Okay, so us older people don't know how to run this, so we're going to skip the video. But trust me, it's great. About a young man sharing his vision.
I'm Truett Corbin.
Oh, here we go.
7 years ago, I was taken out of my home and placed into a shelter.
The first week that I was there in the shelter, a kid named Kaylin hit me in the jaw and broke it in 2 places. I found myself in a hospital, and after they had fixed me up, they were going to send me right back to the shelter. I was scared to death, and honestly, I didn't know what to do. I never experienced something more traumatizing in my life. And honestly, the only feeling I can really describe it best is hopeless. I felt hopeless. Well, at the same time, a foster family got an email about a teenager, a 13-year-old teenager in the hospital. So they stepped out in faith, and guess what? They brought me home, and I got saved. It was cool. I can probably blame that a lot on my dad. Through his patience and mercy with me every day, especially that first 6 months when he was so patient with me through the anger and all the times that I just lost it and I was crying. He really showed me the love that my Father has for me.
At the age of 16, God called me to ministry. At the age of 20, I became a full-time missionary. And so now I'm 21 years old, and I'm serving the Lord in Honduras through discipleship to youth and young adults. It's awesome to see the chain of things, of the people that invested in my parents, and now my parents invested in me, and now I can invest in other people. But once again, it just boils down to obedience to the Lord. And this is one of the things that I appreciate about the call, is that it has acted as a liaison between the church and the foster care community, and exhorting the church to do what it was called to do to begin with. And that includes taking in older children as well. There's no reason why we should have thousands of kids that are in just in America alone that are in the foster care system that have been waiting for years and are just aging out. They've been wanting families for forever, you know, and they never asked for their parents to abandon them. They never asked to be taken out of their homes. They didn't request that their mother or father would, you know, be a drug addict or make poor choices. And all of us have been adopted by Christ, you know, every single one of us. It should be a blessing and an honor for us to do the same for his kids that are in the system right now. And that was something that my parents were doing since day one. It didn't matter the fears or concerns that they had. They always put God first and said, you know what? We are going to trust in him. And he has never failed them. He has never failed me. And you know what? It's such a blessing for me to live the life that I do now.
So I think that's really what he's taught me today, that our God is a God of love, grace, mercy, patience, and of hope.
So I've known Truett since he came into his family when he was, I think he said 14. His parents are friends of ours, and what was amazing to watch is this angry young man who had been hurt so much and for so many years, and to watch him grow into this young man who's now a missionary in Honduras with his family. And his family also serves in Honduras, but Truett also serves on his own as a missionary as well. And, you know, he brought up a couple of really great points. First of all, just understanding the gospel. When my husband and I chose to adopt our son, it was a special needs adoption from China, and, you know, we chose to adopt him. He had no idea that we were coming for him. And yet before we even got on that airplane to fly to China to adopt him, we went ahead and revised our will to include him as one of our heirs. And so when we adopted him, he gained our last name and he became an heir, and that is what Christ has done for us. He adopted us into his family, and we became his heir, and he chose us. And so when we choose to foster or adopt, we're sharing that gospel message tangibly with these kids, and we're not only giving a presentation, we're actually living it out to the children and the families and all those surrounding us. And so our son's adoption turned our lives upside down because it helped us understand what the gospel really was and how Jesus truly loves us and adopts us into his family. But then we noticed something different with his adoption compared to a lot of our friends. Several of our friends had adopted as well, but they had adopted children who had been in an orphanage long term and really struggled to bond and connect with their family. However, our son bonded a lot quicker than a lot of other kids and attached to us. And the difference was our son was actually in foster care in China. And it was very eye-opening to our family to understand the impact of having a family for a child, even if that child is going to go on to be adopted or in most cases be reunified here in the United States. So 4 years later, we moved to Arkansas. We heard about this organization called The Call and decided to go sit through a meeting in Little Rock at the time. It wasn't here in Saline County, and just find out a little bit more about it. And we knew we wanted to probably adopt again someday, but maybe fostering. My heart was for fostering. My husband wasn't quite there yet. And so we went and sat through this meeting, and I looked at my husband afterwards and I said, so, should we go home and pray about this? And he said, we know what we need to do. He said, it's time to start. So we filled out paperwork that night. We're not going to make you do that tonight if you're not comfortable. We do want you to prayerfully consider this, but if you do want to get started tonight, you'll have the opportunity to. We went ahead and jumped in, and as we went through training, we learned more and more about the needs of kids in foster care and the shortage of foster homes. And that was 11, almost 12 years ago in January. And I can tell you today, the needs are still the same. We still need adoptive families. We have over 350 children waiting for homes to adopt them. And these are children mostly school age and older. And their parental rights have been terminated and they're waiting. But we also really, really need foster homes right now. A year ago, I was able to stand up here and say that we actually had more beds for kids in foster care than we had kids in care here in Saline and Perry counties. However, due to COVID and other circumstances, we do not anymore. We have kids, close to 30% of our children, having to leave our county to go to other parts of the state and leave their siblings because we don't have enough foster families. So we're going to talk a lot about fostering tonight. I understand some of you are interested in adoption, and a lot of the process is the same. But please understand, when I talk about fostering, it's because that's a huge crisis right now. It's not to say that adopting is not important. So we're going to go through those needs as well. So The Call is a Christian organization. We are a ministry, and we are here to connect the church with the needs of kids in foster care in DCFS. We are what's called a bridge organization. And we are not an adoption agency. We will not be the ones placing children in your home. We're here to help you walk through the process, to learn about the needs, to answer your questions, and then also to help support the families once they're open and to support the kids as well. And our mission is to educate, equip, and encourage the body of Christ, Christian families, to give a hope and a future to kids in foster care. And we're going to keep working at that until we have no more kids waiting on families leaving our county. In fact, we want to have more homes waiting than we have kids in foster care. And so what that looks like is we want to see enough homes that we have an extra 7 homes who are interested in fostering teenagers, and maybe another 12 homes willing to take sibling groups. And perhaps we have, 13 homes that are open to emergency placement just to help kids through the first few days until they can go back and live with a relative or something like that. So it's a big goal, but we are going to work hard until we get there. Currently in Arkansas, we have over 4,400 kids in care and only 1,500 homes to care for them. But you'll notice one problem with all these numbers is we have 5,900 churches. We have more churches than we have kids in foster care. So why do we have a crisis? As Christians, we should be the ones stepping up. We're God's plan A, and he didn't come up with a plan B. But because we were not able to step up, then the government had to step in. In Saline and Perry counties, we are part of what's called DCFS Area 3, and we have over 370 kids in foster care and only 177 homes to care for them. Specifically, Saline and Perry, 91 kids and 70 homes to care for them. So we would love to see more open foster homes. Go ahead. Our greatest need is for specific children, sibling groups, children ages 6 and up, teenagers, children with special needs, and then also we need foster families who can wholeheartedly support reunification. Over 85% of the kids in foster care do get reunified with family. It may be a birth parent or it could be an aunt or an uncle. And so that is usually going to be the goal right out of the gate. And the parents typically have about a year to work through their plan to get their kids back into their home. At The Call, we want to support that wholeheartedly as well. Children, even when they've come out of really tough situations, they want to be with their parents, and that's where they should be. And so, for instance, at our offices, we have 2 reunification rooms in which families can visit with their kids. We're in a home-like setting. In fact, today I went and met with a family who's working towards reunification. I was able to take them Thanksgiving lunch that they could share together. because we are so excited to see those parents working hard to bring those kids back into their family. The call is unique in that we're volunteer driven. We have a small part-time staff. There's myself and Taylor, who's in the back, that you'll get to meet later. And then we have one other part-time staff, but we have over 70 volunteers that help. And some of them work in our foster care closet and help the families shop. Some of them have gone through training, such as Jennifer in the back, who will be coming up to share her story in a few minutes. She helps train other families and teaches them how to become foster adoptive families. We have Shalene, who has been serving for a long time on our advisory board and in so many different roles. But one of her favorite roles of mine is that she comes into our office about once a month for 3 hours and helps us around the office, whether it's welcoming kids to come in and visit with their families, shop in the closet, etc. We are also unique in that we are able to be 100% privately funded. And so we do not rely on government funding to help care and support for the families. We also have a very unique partnership with DCFS. Because we are not funded by the government, we're able to work in partnership, and we're there to assist them. Our goal is to help them find the families, make sure the families are well supported, have them trained so they can focus on the kids. And their job is to make sure that the children are in a safe place and able to find the best fit for a family. And we're going to go ahead. Jen, can you flip one more time? Okay, we're going to go ahead and pause for just a few minutes, and we're going to have Jen come forward, and then we also have the Fonville family, and they're going to come and share a little bit about their experiences on Jennifer with fostering and Fonville's with adopting, and also give you guys an opportunity to ask them questions and interact with them a little bit, and then we're going to get more in the nuts and bolts of what it looks like to foster or adopt. Is someone coming up?
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Vaughn, and I am one of the Pride trainers here for the call, as well as being on the board for the call. And prior to that, I worked at DCFS. I did that several years ago and really saw the need in the homes because I was in the homes. And I was like, oh, what can we do to help these families? And so God really put me in a place to help serve directly. And then my family decided it wasn't the right fit for us. And so when I left that position, God still put it on our hearts to foster children and to help children. And so we attended an info meeting just like this. And we, like your husband, I was like, are you sure? And my husband's like, yep, let's sign up right now. So we fostered for 2 years, probably 2.5 years. And in that time, we worked with a variety of kiddos, but we had a sibling group. And the sibling group was with us for almost all of those 2 years. We worked hard on reunification. We went through all the ups and downs with that. That particular case was not able to be reunified, and so then we prepared those children to move on to adoption. And so it was amazing to see how God healed these children through foster care. And this is not us, because trust me, I am not the best mom, and there was days where I was like, I'm ready to call it quits, because it was tough. But we were able to help those kids grow and heal, and so they were able to transition on to their forever home. And that was such a blessing for our families to be able to see that, and for my own kids to grow in that process. So now I just train, but we have been the support family for other families as they go through this process, and bring meals, and are there to provide emergency childcare and all those things. So that's a little bit of my journey.
Okay, Morgan and Josh, do you guys mind introducing yourself?
My name is Josh. This is my wife, Morgan. We have a 7-year-old son named Jacob. I guess I'll start at the very beginning with our process. 7 years ago, we went and we lived in Fort Smith, and we went to a meeting like this, and we left with all the paperwork, and we were a little overwhelmed, and so much so that we pushed it off and put it on the back burner. A few years later, fast forward a few years later, we live in Central Arkansas here in Bryant, and you had the scripture from James up there earlier. Morgan quoted the scripture a lot that we are being called as Christians to take care of the orphans and the widows. And with that calling and the desire that we had a home, we have 3 dogs, and we were just living our life, and something was missing for us, and we didn't feel like it was a baby. Like, that's just not what we felt. And so, and we knew what we had the drawing we had before, and so we come to another meeting, informational meeting with the call here, and you know, we went through the process, filled out the paperwork immediately at that point, and you know, moved forward with the opportunity to use, you know, Project Zero website, and, you know, go through and look at the children that are available, which is, it's tough. I mean, if you guys have been on there and explored it, it's difficult. It really is to go through there and see the need that is out there for adoption and all the fostering situations, and you want them all. You want to take care, you know, of every one of them, and obviously you can't do that, but you pray that happens for all of them. And so that was the beginning of our process, going through there and you know, and deciding on, you know, exactly what we want, and you know, and again, it's another hard way to narrow down the, you know, the age range and exactly what we are looking for, and we believe that we can meet the needs the best of. And so that part was, you know, rather difficult for us. And you want to continue on?
Once it was hard, and all of you will definitely experience that. But then again, you see that picture and it's done. It was done for us, and we're continuing to stay open, so we actually go through that in a week. But we pray that happens again, you know, because God will do that. But it's a great website to use, and they are really great with the call. That's a really good thing to start at. Even if you're fostering, it will really open your eyes to that need, because those are just the kids that have been TPR'd. You know, parents' rights have been terminated already, and then you times, 3 for the kids that are in foster care. So just, it's just eye-opening. It is. My experience, or my one thing to tell adoptive and foster parents, is that we are in this together. You do go through it together. We're super blessed to have the call here. In Fort Smith, those years ago, they were really only pushing fostering, so I really appreciate what you said about both. It's just amazing then that we have here. We're not super blessed all over. I hope it's changed there. But they were really pressuring, and don't let that, just like Julia said, take your time and pray about it, but fill out that paperwork, because I promise, anyway, you will be used. Maybe not fostering, maybe not adopting, but you will be used for these kids. I did want to add, I don't know if this is including or not, but a big thing, my advice would be to meet kids where they are. So when these kids come into your home, or if you're just providing respite, you can go through this and provide a babysitting for adoptive and foster parents. So even if you're getting to this point, you're not sure yet, you can provide respite for those kids and still be used, but meeting them where they are, you know, taking these kids in and just expecting them to jump into where you are. That's, we were half and half, and so we learned a lot from each other in that. But meeting these kids where they are with their care, you know, they'll be in therapies and they'll be in great things that are healing them. So to meet them where they are in your life, and just remember that it's a phase. Ours was really hard, and we had three different therapists at that point, not in town. They were in Little Rock, so it was super difficult, but it was just a phase. And he got to graduate from those, and now we have therapists in Bryant. So when you get to this point and a kid comes into your home, emergency or not, and they have all of these things listed out, it's just a phase. You're just getting them to where they need to be, and then you can, you know, make changes, and then they can transition to you. So that was my big thing that, I'm sorry if that's totally off topic, but that was kind of my huge learning experience with our son, is meeting him where he is. Because just like us, if you come in here and tell me what to believe or what to vote for, or, I mean, I'm completely going to resist you. Completely, because that's just my personality, you know. So just meet them where they are, because they're trying, and they, you know, all those stories are hard. I mean, all the stories are hard. So just just being here, I really applaud all of you. You guys are ahead of us. It took us the 7 years, and we regret a lot of that, which God will heal that. But I really applaud all of y'all for being here, for whatever reason you're here today.
So what did the matching process look like for you guys? Can you share a little bit about that?
So we inquired. So I got on Project Zero one night. We are at November evaluation, so we got approved one night in November, and that same night I went on Project Zero and inquired about five children. Inquiring means you just send the email, and they look into it and see if they're a match for you. So I had 5. I said because it was totally me. But 3 of them were already in the process of being adopted, so they got back with us really quick on that, which is really nice. And then we saw Jacob's, and he wasn't where he needed to be, but so we sent the email on him, and I actually got a call back from other people or about another sibling group, and we did the whole thing about them, and he just came coming back to me. So we really dug in, and we're like, we need to meet him. He had a lot of the videos, a lot of the children get to have videos. There's an awesome guy who does that for Project Zero, so a lot of them have the videos, and then their little bio about them. And then we met with the foster parents, because those are your best friends for adoptive families. And we talked with DCFS, and the agent, and the parents, and we just sat down and talked a year ago in March, so almost 2 years now, and then decided, that we wanted to move forward, and then you meet them and make sure. I mean, it was a long process for us, which was really nice. If you can get a slow one where, you start with meeting them and then play dates. And then we had sleepovers, and then we would go back. By the end of it, it was really great because he was ready to move in with us. So if you can get kind of that, some situations are not going to be like that, and you just open them, and you're ready after all of this. After you go through your training and whatnot, you're ready. But ours was slow enough that he was like, okay, you're my mom and dad, let's go. And so we moved in. It was after 5 months. So usually they're a little bit faster, but
And DCFS does take the needs of the child and the family into consideration, because some kids do benefit from a little bit faster, but a lot of them need that slow transition time. And so doing what's best for the child, even though we're excited, we want to make sure the child is in the best place possible. And that's one thing I love about your story, is the way you and the foster family were able to work together for the benefit of the child.
Mm-hmm. And we stayed with the therapist, the same therapist that was Hardy. We stayed, you carried that out. You carried that actual transition to where usually it cannot be as good.
So what's the best thing about adopting a child who's already potty trained?
Fantastic. There's a lot more sleep involved. Like Josh said, I really struggled in my 20s because I never felt called to have a baby. I just never wanted that. So I thought something was wrong with me for years, and I kind of felt like I drug him down with me because he, wanted kids without thinking that we wanted kids in our 20s, right? What that actually means. I thought he wanted kids, and so it was a hard thing to get through. But that's fantastic. He moved in July and then started kindergarten in August, so it was great.
And it's so funny the situation when you have an older child. And again, he was, we met him when he was 5, and he turned 6 right recently. And when we first met him, and then of course he's 7 now. But the older he quickly adopts our sense of humor and some of the things that Morgan says and our interest. And and I'm a football coach, and I would never force him to play football. And I wouldn't even put I will not force him to. It'd be hard if he doesn't want to, but the dude loves football. And I wouldn't know any different. I mean, he from being our son, because he's just like us, and in such a quick amount of time. And we had him for 6 months, obviously, before, the adoption was official, which is still not even a year, though he's officially been our son by the law. But he's just so much like us, and so that's why the older kid like that, I think You get obviously the potty training and all that's over with, that is great, but just the personalities that they already have, and you can kind of see them, blend their personalities with our personality, and we, act like him, and so forth. And so it's just fun to have that type of relationship and be able to have that with, with the older child.
Okay, Jen, can you share a little bit about what it's like already being a parent and having more kids come in, and what's the hard and what's the great thing for your kids?
So it can be tough because there's personalities. And so we did everything backwards, and we had the smallest house we could possibly have and decided to foster extra kids. And so like each of my kids, I'm like, here you go, you get to share a room now. I have a boy and a girl. Today they are almost 16 and 11. So when we started fostering, gosh, my oldest was like 12 or something, or 11. And so she very much ran the house, and it was her room, and how dare I bring in a 6-year-old girl to share a room with her. Now, if it was a baby, we were all on board, but like the 6-year-old girl, I ruined her world. But honestly, truly seeing how the compassion that my kids now have for other kids, the friendships that they make now, because they think differently. They don't think, man, that kid's just a jerk because he's a jerk. No, there's probably something else going on with this kiddo, and maybe I need to take a little time and either invest in them or just be like, hey man, how's it going? Take a little extra effort. And that's nothing that I've taught these children. That is God using foster care to really help grow the hearts of my children. But it is tough, and being a foster parent can be challenging because you're literally getting a call in the middle of the night potentially to say, hey, there's this kiddo. The most heartbreaking thing, and I tell this in every one of my Pride trainings, is the day you open your home, the amount of phone calls you potentially could get from kids that are not in Saline County, because there's just such a big need in the state for kids to have foster homes. And so guarding my heart a little bit so that I don't quickly say yes to every kid, because again, we only had this 3-bedroom house. Like I can't only legally put so many kids in here. So trying to make the right decisions of the kids that we could provide the best support for, the best healing home, and really focus to try to stay here in Saline County. That's where I really wanted to help, was the kids in my backyard. And so, but there was challenges. We did a lot of family therapy sessions. So foster kiddo got therapy. My own kids had therapy. We kept them all at the same clinic so we could have these big family sessions. We had arguments over the silliest things. But in the end, in the minute, it was hard. Like, trust me, there were days where I was like, what am I thinking? But in the end, when it was all said and done, the value so outweighed any gray hairs I got through the process, so.
Okay, so as I mentioned, this is an opportunity also for you guys to ask questions to these two families. So does anyone have a question about fostering or adopting, what it's like, anything like that to ask for the families? That's a great question. So with respite care, there's 2 different ways to go about this. You can partner with a family and become their foster family support, or if they're in the early stage of adoption, you can become support for them as well. They're considered a foster placement when that child first moves in. Or if you know an adoptive family, dive in deep, be their support, even though you don't have to go through the whole process. Foster family support, you just fill out background checks with a family that you already have a relationship with. So it could be a relative, a friend, or somebody at church. For respite care, traditional respite care, that is a fully licensed foster home, and that is going through the entire process. So, and we're going to dig into that a little deeper. That's a great question. What are some of the things that foster family support did for you guys? How did they help you out? Did you have anyone that just did something that really meant a lot?
Even when we were finalized in January, and I still get emails from the call office asking how's things going and for reevaluation now that we're, you do a yearly thing to stay open, the big one, the house check, they just always send the email at the very least, checking on us and see how we're doing.
Thankfully you have Becca as somebody to help.
Yes. So Miss Becca is where our son is tonight, and she is actually, she works in the medical field, so that's super great. But she is friends with the foster family that he lived with for 3.5 years. So we got to bring her from old Jacob to new Jacob's life and continue that relationship, and he still gets to see her and her sweet dog and spend time with them. And he really likes to see people that he knew then to tell him his new name, and just to show off, really. I mean, just, you know how kids are and adults are, especially we want to show our progress, and even a 7-year-old likes that and took his book tonight so he could read to her.
One thing I loved is one of the first weeks you had him at church. I was walking by and I said, hi, and I think I used the wrong name, but he said, hey, I know you. And it was kind of like, wait a minute, I should know who you are, but I have this new life, and I'm trying to figure out where you fit into it. But having that continuity and relationship meant so much to that young boy. So.
And he has, he had a sibling in foster care. Here's how important, siblings are, like you were talking about. That was his age, and they took Jacob in when he was 2 years old, and they had a little boy that was 2 years old. And so for 3 years, they were brothers now. You're not going to tell them any different. And now they're not brothers, and they understand that, but now they're friends. So this little boy would come over, and he swam with us this summer, and Jacob, that's his friend. It'll be a lifelong friend. Because of the time that was spent of his foster family treating Jacob like he is their son. Including him in all of the family events and in all the Christmas events and so forth. And so he has a friend for life with this little boy. And so it's neat that the impact that, and I know it's got to be difficult. And with his foster family, they had 4 kids of their own, and I don't know how they did it, but at the same time though, the impact that even the siblings can have that are their biological, to the foster family, can have on the kids that are brought into the home is awesome. It's a great impact, and that's probably, obviously the foster family and the things that they did are fantastic, the parents, but for Jacob to have these siblings, now these friends for life are, it's just amazing.
And he misses his roommates.
He does, yeah.
Does not sleep as well.
Did you have anything?
I was going to say, you asked about foster family support, and I think one of the biggest blessings of that was the people that would just show up with a meal. They would know that we got a placement, and then they would just bring us dinner. And so that's huge, because usually when you get a new placement, unless your house is like the call closet, you might have to be scrambling to go to the call closet to get some things. Like, we always never had what we needed. At one point, I swear we had no toys. I was like, how are we in a foster home with no toys? And so having those support families come in and bring us a meal, to pray for us, to pray for our kiddos, to pray for the case. Here at Fellowship, because I also attend here at Fellowship, we have our discipleship groups that will, be partnered with our foster families and our adoptive families to pray for them, to work with them, to bring them needs, whatever they might need, they help out there. And so those are huge pieces. But if you, I always encourage everybody in training, if you don't have families to fill out those red packets for, you really think and pray hard about who that's going to be. And what's funny is when we opened, those people that I was so close with and they were going to be the best support families ever, they both moved away. And so then we had no support families. And then that gave us an opportunity to expand our village here at Fellowship. And then, we had a whole different set of people in our lives that we were able to be support people. And if you go through training, I always offer up that we'll be foster support people. So, every time, rarely anybody takes me up on it, but we will do it, so.
Thank you. Any other questions for these two families? I'm also going to have Taylor Brown. She's our family support coordinator come up. And do you mind just sharing a little bit about what it was like going from 0 kids like Josh and Morgan to taking siblings?
Sure. So as Julia mentioned, my name's Taylor Brown, and I have the privilege of serving as family support coordinator for the call here in Saline and Perry counties at this time. But we started our process years ago. We were living the newlywed lifestyle. We'd been married for 5 years, and we went to church, and it was Orphan Sunday, and we left, and we're like, well, I guess we should foster some kids. So we did. But we didn't have kids. We weren't looking to adopt. We just wanted to help with the foster crisis. And boy, it was great. But yeah, not having kids and then fostering like 2 at a time was a big adjustment. We started with, well, we're just going to foster 1. I remember saying to Julia at our info meeting, we don't have kids. We don't know what we're doing. Are you sure that you want us? And she was like, yeah, we love our families with no kids. They're like, all right. So, but we were just going to take 1. They were going to be like a toddler. In my head, this kid I dreamed up, toddler, and they're like the cutest kid you've ever seen. Like, they were so cute. And then we went to training, and they talked about siblings and how studies show that it's often more traumatic for kids to be separated from one another, from their siblings, than it is from their parent in a situation like this. Because in the hard times, that sibling has been their shelter and their rock. And so, Jared and I looked at each other and we're like, well, I guess we have these other bedrooms. So we'll take 2, I guess, but really we're just going to take 1. And so sure enough, we open within like 6 hours, they call us and they have 2 kids. And of course we said yes. We were so excited. And man, it was amazing. It was just the best experience. I'm really grateful that trainers and Julia educated us on the importance of taking siblings for the kids' sake, but also like especially if you don't have kids in your home, like kids make kids feel comfortable and kids play with kids. I'm not that fun. I don't want to play 24 hours a day, so like having a sibling is great. But it was a big adjustment. It was very hard, but it was well worth it. And I'm glad that we took siblings. We almost always had siblings in our home, and I far preferred it to the times when we only had 1. So, yeah.
I wanted Taylor to share as well so you could meet her, but also understanding that Fonville's, Jacob needed to be the only one for a little bit to be able to bond with your family, but you guys kept that bond going with his foster family. That is super important. And you'll notice most of what we've talked about with the foster adoptive families are relationships. Relationships are so important. Relationships with their former foster family, relationships with therapists, relationships even with their schools, and whatever continuity we can give them are also important. So any other questions before these families, before we let them step down? Yes, sir. It's kind of case by case, and it's honestly up to the family typically, but we encourage our foster families to walk through the reunification process with the parent as a mentor. And so frequently, the family does go on to become part of an extension of this family. And so a lot of our families do stay in contact with the kids and are there to support the family. A lot of them go back to single moms or families who have been in crisis for a reason, because typically they didn't have a good support system to start. And so you become that support system for them to help heal that family, but then also to help support the family so they can have longevity in raising their kids and not end up back in crisis. So that's a great question. Any other questions? All right, we'll keep going. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. This slide's been up for a while, so I'm not going to go through it one by one, but the important thing that I wanted to mention is that the call in DCFS, while we partner together, we can partner together because we have shared values. And it all comes down to the kids, how we support the kids and encourage reunification and try and just help them be the healthiest versions of themselves. Did it freeze up, Jen? Okay, go ahead and go to the next one. Okay. The mission of DCFS is to keep children safe and to help families. And typically at this point, we have somebody from the Division of Children and Family Services with us to share. This is their portion. But unfortunately, there was a crisis that they're dealing with tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you. I am going to have to read the screen a little bit more, though, since this is their portion. But DCFS is their goal is to always try and keep the kids in the home whenever possible. And so they will not automatically receive a call that there's a child in crisis and come and take the child out of the home, because frequently what the family needs may be something like they need help getting their power turned back on, or having water or other resources that would help keep the children safely in the home. However, if the situation is unstable and unsafe and the children cannot remain in the home, then at that point will DCFS remove the children and try and find a temporary place for them until the family is healed and able to be back together again. They have different roles and responsibilities than the call. As I mentioned, we will not be placing children in the home. We're there to find the families and support the families. So DCFS has a resource worker that is assigned to assist call recruited families. They work closely with us, and tomorrow morning, Taylor and I are gonna go sit down and meet with them and find out what are the needs and how can we best support the families and the kids in foster care. They also help with opening the home, and so they will be the people that come into your home to let you know what needs to happen to have your home prepared to welcome children in foster care, and then they will also come out on a regular basis to make sure you're meeting minimum licensing standards. And some of their practice model goals is to make sure the kids have permanency. Are they going to be able to stay where they are back with the family long term? Does the family and the child have the resources they need? And what resources do we have in our community that will help with the longevity? Also, if the child is not able to be reunified, what is the best long-term placement for that child? Is it a goal of adoption or another family member, or what does that look like? And they explore all those options. Foster care facts: the first step if a child is in crisis is a call is made to the child maltreatment hotline, and it is an anonymous call. And at that point, the investigators will go out and investigate the matter to see if the child does need to be removed or if the child can stay. Any guesses as to what the number one reason or some of the larger reasons here in Saline County or Grant County why kids are removed? Any guess? It's typically neglect. Neglect tends to be the biggest issue. Now, it could be neglect because of drug abuse, but a child will not be removed from the home just because a parent is using drugs. They will only be removed if the child is in danger because of the drug abuse. So it may be that the child has been neglected, they're not being fed, they don't have clean clothing, they're not making it to school on a regular basis, or it could be that other abuse is happening, such as physical or sexual abuse. And then the first step when they start looking for a home is to look at people who already have a relationship with the child. So that may be a relative, it could be a coach or someone the child knows well, a teacher is also another great option. And so they're gonna try and find those relationships the child already has to see if they could find a home with somebody they know rather than place them in a foster family. However, if that's not possible, that's when they begin calling foster families. Also, we've talked a bit about siblings tonight, and the goal is to always keep siblings together, whether it's in fostering or through adoption as well. Even if siblings have to be separated in foster care, if they do become available for adoption, the goal is to have those children adopted together. And for our teens, they are sometimes the hardest to find homes for, because a lot of people do envision the cute little toddlers, but the reality is a majority of our kids who are waiting for families for adoption, or a majority of the kids who are in foster care are school-aged and older. So we're going to talk a little bit about the different homes, and this is where we'll get into respite. But first of all is our traditional foster home. And this is a family who has completed the background checks and goes through the process of training and having a home study, et cetera, to welcome children into their home. And cases could last one night or they could last up to 18 months. There's no, in fact, when you receive a call about a child in foster care, they typically cannot tell you just how long that child's going to be with you, because they're not sure yet what family members may be available or what the reunification plan is going to look like at that point. The provisional and fictive kin, those are the families who already have a pre-existing relationship with the child. So that is where the teacher or the coach, it could be a Sunday school teacher, a relative, or another neighbor. We also have emergency-only homes and respite homes. The respite homes are the homes that are fully licensed foster homes, and they can keep children in their home for up to a week. These families, and also our emergency placement families, are there to welcome children when they first come into care while they're looking at a relative perhaps, or to help out other foster families in our area to give them a break occasionally, or if there's an emergency that the foster family has, they'll need a respite family. And they also help out. We have, a foster mom who's pregnant and is going to need, respite care while she's in the hospital, things like that as well. And then our adoptive homes. And as an adoptive home, you will only be matched with a child whose parental rights have already been terminated. And so our adoptive homes are not going to be getting calls in the middle of the night. There's going to be the matching process that Josh and Morgan were talking about, where the parental rights have already been terminated. The child may be on the Project Zero or may not, and the agency is going to sit down with the family and match them with a child, and then walk them through the process of adoption and go through a disclosure packet, explain every medical condition this child has had, go through therapy notes, school notes, so the child has a good picture, the parents have a good picture of the needs of this child before they even meet the child. And there's other ways that you can have help with childcare as well. First of all is just involving children in normal childhood activities. We want these kids to be put in soccer if they want to play soccer, play football, go to church camp, have those normal, healthy childhood experiences. Go to birthday parties, have sleepovers with their friends. But then also, there is daycare vouchers available for those who need to be in daycare. If they're younger children under school age, the agency will pay for vouchers to several accredited daycares, and we have quite a few here in Saline County. Grant County is a little bit more of a stretch. I think there used to be one, and I'm not sure that they're open, but if you live close to Saline County, that's probably, or Pulaski, that's going to be a better option anyway. And then also, you can have babysitters come into your home if it's someone that you would trust your children with normally. And so you can go out for a date night and have the teen from church come and help babysit the kids. Or, as these family mentioned, having somebody, an adult who already has a relationship with the child that might be a safe placement or a safe person to come and spend time with the child as well. And if you're interested in volunteering, this is a great way to also help support children in foster care, is to help provide childcare so a parent can go on a date night or go grocery shopping without taking 6 kids. And then foster family support are those families that have a relationship with the foster family or the pre-adoptive family, the family that's in the process of adopting, and they are willing to dive deep and partner with that family. And we have, as they mentioned, Jennifer mentioned, at our church, we partner a discipleship group with a family to help provide that foster family support and to walk alongside of that family. But I love how Taylor puts it. She said you get to be the fun aunt and uncle to the kids in foster care. And so I hope you don't mind if I share a little bit about your experience, but Jared and Taylor went to another family in their small group at their church and said, we want to do this. Will you come alongside us and foster with us? And this family did. And Jared and Taylor, during the time of fostering, went through a hard family situation, and this family was able to step in an instant and help provide continuity for the kids while they were having to grieve and go through a hard process. But then that family was also invited to go to the zoo with the kids and to take them out for ice cream and do fun things with them. So it wasn't only an emergency, they were living life together. And these kids became very attached to this other family. And so they truly live life together, which was another set of mentors for these kids and another family who loved them well. And then respite care is, we already mentioned, having the children go to a safe family who has already gone through the process and is an open foster home as well. As I mentioned, the goal for kids in foster care for over 85% of the kids is reunification. And so this is your opportunity to also mentor the family as a whole. And that, for me, when I fostered, was a tremendous opportunity. I really enjoyed getting to know the families and loving them and supporting them, and stayed in contact with one of them. But that was such a neat way to interact with them and to encourage them. I've written letters to a mom in prison before, and she sent letters back and was able to read those to the kids. So even if the family couldn't be at the visit with the child, we're still able to interact and have a relationship with them. Reunification is so important to our kids, and that is why it is also important for us to, in supporting reunification, to also build up the parents in front of the kids. When our kids came into care, I would always ask mom if I could take a picture of her with the child at their first visit. And that was framed in their bedroom and on our refrigerator. And whenever kids had visits with their parents, we would send school papers and the little cute things they made at school to their mom as well. So that would help form that bond and keep that communication going. And we've talked about quite a bit of this, so since we have been visiting so long, we're going to keep going here. There's a large team dedicated to supporting these kids in foster care. We have the biological family and DCFS staff and the foster family, but then there may also be a court-appointed special advocate who's involved, along with judges and attorneys, therapists, teachers, doctors, and we're all working together to make sure that the child doesn't slip through the cracks, has all the resources they need, and are on a path to healing, as well as the entire biological family. And here in Arkansas, there's no such thing as foster to adopt. And so what this looks like is if you open as a foster family, we want you to be 100% behind reunification. You get to be the cheerleader for that family. Encourage them, send notes to them, talk positively to the children, and really support that family well. However, sometimes reunification doesn't happen. Sometimes the chains of addiction are too strong. And so if that becomes the situation and the child does become available for adoption, the agency will next look at other relatives or people who are in that child's life. But if the child is placed for adoption and there are no other options, the foster family may ask to be considered. And frequently that does end up being the case. If there's no other good options for family, a foster family can be considered for adoption. So my husband and I began fostering 12 years ago, and almost 12 years ago, we started going through the process and opened 11 years ago. And our first placement was a special needs infant who had been in the hospital for 9 weeks. We had already had a special needs child, and I said, we'll do one baby. Just, my kids really think a baby would be cool. Let's get it out of our system, and then we want to foster older kids. Well, that little girl was tiny. She had been a preemie, so she was this tiny little thing, and we brought her into our home, and it was a little intimidating because of her special needs, and she didn't like to breathe, and she didn't like to eat, and so we were waking her constantly, trying to get her fed and healthy, and they said, she'll be gone by Christmas. If you can just hang in there for a few months, she'll be gone by Christmas. Well, that little girl is now 11 and a half, and she's a disc carpentry, and she was not able to be reunified with her parents, and we tried hard. The whole family did, and we were not able to complete that. But during that process, we also found out she had a brother, and were able to meet him and his foster family. And then when the kids became available for adoption, we adopted her brother as well. So the siblings are together. But what was beautiful about it is they had a great relationship with their aunt and uncle, but aunt and uncle did not feel like they would be a good long-term solution for the kids. So we went ahead and adopted aunt and uncle into our family too. And so they're part of our family also. All of my kids call my two youngest their aunt and uncle. All my kids call aunt and uncle. So we're one big happy family. We do try and stay in contact with all of them. Okay, let's go ahead, Jen. A lot of people, when they are surprised, they're surprised when they get on the Heart Gallery to see that we do not have infants. And most of our babies are reunified, and those who are not, they may be adopted by a foster family. If you look on the Project Zero website, you will see a majority of the kids waiting to be adopted are age 6 and older, those school-age kids. And we, at the call, have limited resources, and so we will not accept applications for anyone interested in adopting an infant. And please understand that we understand your heart if that's what you feel like you need to do and that's where you want to adopt from that age group. We would love to help you find resources to do so. And so if that is your heart, please understand we're not saying you wouldn't be good adoptive parents or there's not a need for that. There is a need for people to adopt infants, typically international or through private adoption. And so we would like to help point you in that direction. However, if you are willing to consider a sibling group and an older children, that's the process that we will take you through. Presently, we have over 360 children. 177 of those are teenagers, and over 200 have been waiting for years. These children are waiting for families, and they're either in a facility or they're in a foster family waiting to have an adoptive family, a forever family. Jen, we've talked about that, so let's go ahead and move on there. What makes adoption successful? Honestly, I love what Morgan said, meeting a child where they are. Understanding that a 12-year-old child may emotionally and even intellectually be a 6-year-old, and be willing to love them and help them grow and watch them change and be a part of their story is amazing. Our son, when we brought him into our home, he was developmentally delayed as well as emotionally, and watching him learn to trust, and after going through years of therapy, he graduated from therapy, and his therapist made the comment, it's amazing to see how his brain rewired itself so he could thrive and become part of a family. And he went from being 4 years delayed emotionally to being pretty close to on target. And to be a part of that story, meeting the children where they are, being able to parent with a sense of humor, to not take things personally when kids are angry or if they lie or they're stressed out, and that when they are stressed out, they're going to act in ways that we don't understand, and being understanding of that and being willing to meet them and walk them through their past trauma and help them heal and grow. And we're going to go through a lot of ways to help them heal and how to understand trauma when you go through the training. Basic requirements: you need to be at least 21 years of age. We have background checks for you to complete that will be sent into the state. Medical exam, you need to have at least 50 square feet for children. So if you have a 10 by 10 bedroom, you can have 2 kids in there. And when a resource worker from the Division of Children and Family Services come to your home before you attend training, they're going to measure the bedrooms, and they're going to let you know what you need to do to have your home ready to foster or adopt. You do not have to have your home completely ready that first day. That's their goal, is to come walk through your home and say, please put a lock on this door. You can have 2 children in this room. You can have 3 in this room, and they'll let you know how many children your home would be approved for. The goal is to have that checklist completed before your final walkthrough, which is after you complete the entire process. You'll have a couple of months. There is monetary assistance for families who are fostering based on the age of the child and the needs of the child. Some children do also may have other benefits, such as if they have medical needs, etc. And then the agency will also help pay for mileage to appointments and such. And then adoptive homes, and all children also come with foster care Medicaid to cover medical expenses, and it even covers some things like vision and dental as well. Adoptive homes, some children do qualify for an adoption subsidy, which is a continuation of this board payment. And that is based on the health and age of the child, if they're part of a sibling group, etc. And the adoption specialist will go through that with you when you have children that you're matched with. There are no legal fees to adopt children out of foster care. All the legal fees are paid for by DCFS, and so the only fees to open your home to foster or adopt will be if you have a copay for a physical, you might have to pay for your CPR, and then if your home needs any minor modifications. But there will not be any charges. The call, we provide all of our services at no charge, as does DCFS. Steps to opening your home. Number 1 is tonight, attending the information meeting, so you've gotten that out of the way. The second thing you'll do is to go to this website, and we'll have this up at the end as well. And you're going to fill out 1 questionnaire on fosterarkansas.org per family. So not 1 per couple, not 1 for each spouse. And then you will receive the background check paperwork from us. You'll complete that, and then you'll submit it. And once your background checks have cleared, you'll get a call from DCFS, and they will come out and schedule a visit to walk through your home and to fingerprint you. Then you'll have the PRIDE training, and it will be 27 hours and then 3 hours in your home with DCFS. You'll turn in a big packet of paperwork And then you'll have a home study. And a home study is done by an independent contractor who will come into your home and write your autobiography. They're going to ask you a bunch of questions. You're going to fill out a questionnaire to help them understand who you are. And then they're going to write it up for you. And you're going to read through it and make sure everything's accurate. And then once that's completed, you have your final walkthrough. Now, if you're opening as a foster home, as Jen mentioned, you will open up and you may receive 6 calls in one day, or DCFS will come for that final walkthrough and bring a couple of kids with them, depending on the ages you're willing, open to fostering. Sometimes it could take 3 months. Right now, I will say it will not take 3 months, but depending on the number of families we have and the ages of children, sometimes it could take a little bit longer. For our adoptive families, you will go through a separate matching process. So the process to open your home is going to be very similar. However, you're going to go through the matching process in which you fill out a form, it's put in a database, you can inquire about kids, and DCFS is going to be looking for families for the kids. So the client of the adoption specialist is the child, not the family, which is the opposite of private adoption. When you go through a private adoption, you typically hire an adoption attorney who's looking for a child for you. In this case, DCFS has children and they're looking for homes for the children. And so they're going to look at your home study and they're going to see if you would be a good match for this child. And then I mentioned the disclosure meeting in which they're going to sit down and go through all the information they have about the children, give you an opportunity to ask questions, and then if you want to proceed, then you will have an opportunity to meet the kids, typically for a couple of hours, and then going through that transition to spending more and more time together until they move in. Once you have had the children moved into your home, not from the first day of meeting, but once they have been moved into your home, it will be a minimum of 6 months until the adoption hearing is set. And we encourage you to take your time. There's no rush. I know it feels like a rush at the time, but take your time to really get to know the children. And also, this will be an opportunity to set up any services they need long term. So for instance, if they are going to need occupational therapy, you want to get that service set up before the adoption is finalized so it falls under their Medicaid. And yet if you rush through this, you may not know all their needs. And so we're going to encourage you to take your time there. You will have a lot of different people coming in and out of your home, and they are trying to do things as safely as possible with COVID right now. So you will have, I'm sorry, I almost said her name. Our former resource worker who just moved to another county, they're in the process of hiring somebody else. But they will have a DCFS resource worker come do that initial walkthrough, but then she's going to come once your home is open every 3 months after that, quarterly, to do just a check-in, walk through of your home, check your paperwork, etc. You also are going to have annual visits from licensing specialists. You also may have the children's attorney coming to visit them, their CASA volunteer, etc. And I will tell you, the first couple times we had people come into our home, I cleaned out the closets, I cleaned out the drawers, I made sure the house was spick and span. And after a while, I just finally started picking up the loads of laundry off the couch and moving them into a basket so they'd have a place to sit. So they're expecting you to live as a family. They're not looking for perfection. General tidiness is appreciated. They don't want to see food sitting on the counter after 3 days, but they're expecting you to live as a family. One of the visits will be a surprise visit, and that is required by the state. So she will just pop in one day and ask to see your home and make sure everything's up to licensing standards. You will also have the annual recertification that Fonville's were talking about, where they will get updated paperwork from you, vaccination records for your kids, your pets, your background checks, all that will need to be redone. And then you will also need continuing education hours, 15 hours per parent in the home. So if you're a single parent, just yourself. If you're married, you each will need 15 hours. The call does help out with that. We have the Foster Parent Association also that will have meetings that you can attend, and then we try and provide a lot of different opportunities so it's not overwhelming. If you are a teacher or in some sort of career that has continuing education, as long as it pertains to children or parenting, you may be able to use those as well. And it is a process to open your home, and it can be a long process depending on how long it takes background checks or your paperwork to get completed and turned in. However, we will never apologize for the length of the process because we feel that these children deserve the best possible home. And so we believe that we should go through a rigorous process to make sure we have the best homes. We're not looking for any home. We are looking for the best possible homes for these kids because they deserve it. Kids who have been through trauma need stability. They need strong homes. They need loving parents. I can assure you they do not need perfect parents. If they did, I would not be standing here. We're far from perfect, but we're willing to learn, and that's what makes the difference. So at this point, what we would like for you to do is to be able to ask questions, but then also prayerfully consider what is the next step. It may be fostering, it may be adopting, it may be supporting an existing foster adoptive family. We are not sending kids home with you tonight, so this is not a rush. We will be having our next training will be in January, and we will need to have background checks completed by, I think, the first weekend in December if you want to attend that training. If you are interested in volunteering, we would love to get you plugged in as well, and we are so thankful you sat through this entire process, but we do like our volunteers to understand who we are, what we do, and what this looks like for our foster adoptive families. And so if you're interested in volunteering, I'm going to have you talk to one of the ladies, either Shalene back there or Jennifer over here. And if you're interested in fostering or adopting, Taylor and I will be helping you out here in a little bit. But just take time to examine yourself and ask yourself the questions. Do I have what it takes to help towards reunification? Does that excite me? Do I have room in my home to take more than one child that I could keep siblings together, whether fostering or adopting? Or do I have a heart for volunteering and helping families? We'd love to get you plugged in there as well. And as I mentioned before, we are a Christian organization, and so we do require active church involvement to go through the process with the call. However, if you are not involved in a church, that does not mean you cannot foster or adopt. Typically, we'd refer you to DCFS, and we will still do so, but we will talk to you individually about that and what that looks like. But the process is very similar, and once you are open, whether you go through the call or whether you go through DCFS, we want you to come and shop at the foster care closet to get what you need for the kids. We want you to come to our annual retreat or to come to the continuing education. We're here to support you. For fostering and adopting, it's very important to note that if you want to go through the training, we need both spouses present at every date listed. So January 9th is a Saturday, as is the 23rd, and our training will start at 9 a.m., and it will wrap up between 3:30 and 4. And on Sundays, it will be after church from 1 to 7. And then our last portion of training will be on January 26th. That will probably be by Zoom, and honestly, all of it maybe, we really don't know. So we ask for patience as we figure this out in the next few months. We have done all the past trainings since COVID began by Zoom. We really lose a lot of the relational value through that training. So if we can, we will hold it. If we can hold it safely, we will hold it in person. If not, it will be by Zoom. But even if it is on the internet, we do ask if you have children in your home, please find other arrangements for them. We're going to be discussing some difficult topics that would be hard for kids to hear. And we also want you to be able to focus. It's an intense training. We're going to pack 27 hours in those 2 weekends and that one Tuesday night. On Saturdays, it will be from 9 a.m. until 3:30 or 4, and on Sundays from 1 to 7. And then the Tuesday night, we will let you know. It depends if it's in person or on Zoom as to what time we'll start, but it will be after work. We'll let you know about that. If we're able to do in person, we typically have it at the place that hosted the information meeting, which would be here at Fellowship Bible Church. And we do have a large multi-purpose room over there. We'll see. Well, actually, that's not true. Typically, we have it at our office, but in COVID world, we've been hosting it at churches. Other questions about fostering, adopting, the process? Yes, ma'am. you determine who comes into your home. So the question is depending on the space, if you have room for more than one child, but you're only wanting to foster one or adopt one, do you have to take more? No. In fact, you determine the ages, and you determine the number, and you determine the gender. So you might get a little pressure. I'm not going to say you're not, but you need to stand firm to what you know you can handle, and that's important. When we were fostering, there's another couple, and they love toddlers, and toddlers are not my thing. I tried, and it was just really terrible, and I should have known that because I had raised toddlers before, and I didn't even enjoy toddlers after I gave birth to them. So toddlers were difficult, but I kept saying yes to toddlers. And meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Cumpy, they loved toddlers, but they weren't getting calls for toddlers, so they were taking kids that were difficult for them. Had I said no to the toddlers, Cumpys would have gotten them, and I would have gotten the older kids that I should have been fostering. So it's okay to say no. And also realizing I was not going to be a good parent to toddlers. And so for me to take toddlers was not beneficial to anybody. Good question. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Not necessarily. So if they come to you as an emergency placement, and even some kids who are reunified, you may not always get information. So, and that's one of the hard parts, is just trusting God that He can see those children and has them safe. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you'll have a relationship with a foster family. So that's a beautiful thing too. And if you're at the Foster Parent Association meetings or continuing education events, you get to know the other foster parents, so you'll figure out pretty fast who has who. Absolutely. You can open as a respite family and emergency placement family. It's kind of cool here in Saline County. We've been piloting something new over the past year, and I think it's going to continue. But we started emergency placement team that takes the middle of the night calls so our foster parents can sleep through the night and not receive calls. And so we have a team of people, and DCFS has one phone number they call, and every night I have a different phone number of a different emergency placement family scheduled. So DCFS can call one phone number and be guaranteed to find a placement for those kids at night, and that allows our foster parents to not have to be on call 24/7. And that's a huge need as well, but those families also typically serve as respite during other times as well. So good questions. Other questions? Taylor, is there anything you wanted to add? No? I'm sorry? Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight. You can continue to ask us questions, any of us that are here as volunteers or staff, and we would love to be able to answer those. And then also in your blue packet, if you want to pull out those, any forms in there, if you could please fill out the family information form, whether you're interested in fostering or adopting or volunteering, or you came in here and you're going to leave and throw that packet in the trash, that's okay. I just need that family information form back. Also in there, you will see a couple other pieces of paper. And on the bottom half, it asks for age of child and all of that. We honestly don't need that now. When you come to training, it's okay to not be sure if you want to foster or adopt. My husband and I went to training. My husband was still thinking adoption, but once we sat through that training and heard the need for fostering and found out the support that would be in place, we decided to go fostering. And some families come in thinking foster, and at the end of training decide on adopt. So that's okay. So that part's not important on the family information form. But then if you are interested in volunteering, there's a volunteer form. There's also a tremendous flow chart that Taylor has made that shows the process and gives more details on the back. So I encourage you to look at that. As I mentioned, we are a Christian nonprofit, so you'll see a statement of faith in there, as well as we'll need a pastoral recommendation, etc. And if you are not able to complete that or are uncomfortable doing so, as I mentioned, it's okay. You don't have to go through the call to become a foster or adoptive family. We will put you in touch with DCFS if you're unable to provide that pastoral reference or if you're not involved in a church. So thank you so much for coming. I'm going to close us out in prayer, and then if you would like to go ahead and get started on paperwork tonight, fill out that fosterarkansas.org. There is one computer over there, or you can fill it out on your phone. It's once you go through that form, at the very end, it's going to give you a number. And if you could please write that number down. If you're at the computer, there is a sticky note, or you can write it on the top of your family information form. That helps us track your paperwork and keeps everything on track. And once you fill out that online inquiry, then we have background checks. Taylor and I can notarize those for you here tonight, or you can take them with you, have them notarized, either the drive-through of the bank or the library will notarize those, and you can bring them to our office. And then follow up with us, and we'll get you started. So, question? No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure. All right. Father, thank you so much for each family that took the time to come out tonight to learn more about fostering and adopting, the needs of kids in foster care. And Father, we know that you made each of us very unique and gave us different gifts and different passions and different talents. And Father, just guide each one of these families as they prayerfully consider whether it's fostering, adopting, volunteering, getting involved in some way. Help us to find a good fit for their needs. And if it's not in this realm, Father, it may be with the homeless or with widows, or you have given us so many opportunities to serve you and be your hands and feet. So we just ask for a blessing on these families and wisdom from you in Jesus' name. Amen.